The other day, I was heading out to the countryside to do some camping with my friends, and it was my first time visiting that area of the countryside. We saw some really beautiful scenes, some tall trees that you'll never see in the city side, and some beautiful pink roses. Everything was great, except for the extreme hot temperature. And when I say hot, I mean that day was somehow the hottest day that the city has faced in the past decade, and maybe even in its history. Like, it's literally crazy. Like, that night we were sleeping side by side to each other and basically being cooked by global warming. I'm not even joking when I say being cooked. Like, literally we were being cooked alive. Like, my body was sweating and everyone was struggling to breathe and no one could really sleep for the entire night. And what ended up happening was we decided to not sleep in our tent and just sleep in the plain grass, even though there were like insects and all the different creatures out there. And really, we were so grateful that it was just only a one night planned trip. Fast forward to one night later. I remember I've never been so happy to see my bed. Like, I've never felt so relaxed when the cool air was brushing on my face and I was tucked in my cozy blanket. And I felt this deep joy rushing through me because I finally had the luxury. I finally had the luxury to get a good night's sleep on an actual mattress with an actual AC. And the reason why I'm telling you this story is because this ties really well with the concept on what we're going to explore in this video, which is finding out how we can actually create more pleasure and happiness in the present moment. And what I'm talking about specifically is really how you can create this feeling of joy. Create this feeling of joy on demand with whatever you're doing right now and whatever you're going to do after this video. And I'm not talking about dwelling on the things from the past or from the future. Like, you can easily find happiness when you look back at past memories, right? Or when you think about your future vision. And there's different approaches to happiness with that. But then I want to focus on creating happiness in the now. How can we do that? How can you smile more rather than being so depressed all the time? And really, I spent some time just thinking about the happiest moments that I had during my childhood. And I remember one huge thing that I was obsessed with was collectible card games, like football cards, Match Attacks, Pokemon cards. I remember in the past I would spend hours just scrolling through eBay, like screenshotting and bookmarking all of the cards that I wanted to buy, and then going up to my parents and begging them to buy during Christmas or during my birthdays. Even though a lot of the time they'll be like, oh, it's too expensive. It's just a cardboard. Why is it so special to you, right? And I remember with these cards, there was also a process where you can go through, which is grading the cards. And you grade it with companies like PSA or MGT or BGA. And most of the time, why people grade these cards is because you treat it like it's a precious possession, right? It's like when you buy an expensive car and you don't really want to drive it because you don't want to damage it. You treat it as an asset, right? You treat it as something there to grow in value, as something there to just savor during that moment. And I remember I did the same thing with these cards. Like, every single day I would walk into my room and I would see it on my shelf. And the first thing that I would do is not go to my desk, but is to go to the shelf and just start feeling it, right? Just start enjoying the picture, enjoying the beauty of the card. And at times I would even smell it, which was kind of gross when I think back to it now. But then over time, what I realized is I slowly paid less attention to these cards until one day, these cards just became a background to all of the other cards that I had on display. And then what I'll do is eventually refresh these cards with new batches of cards, right? And then this whole cycle will happen again. And I remember at one point I would even regret buying these cards because I start to realize that there's really nothing special with these cards, right? In comparison to all of the other cards online, it's really just made of cardboard. And reflecting on this made me realize that this is something that doesn't only happen to my obsession with cards, but it really manifests in every single thing that brings me happiness in life. And I really want you to think about that for a second. a lot of the times it seems like the more we try and squeeze the happiness or try and gain some kind of joy out of a certain activity by spending more time with it, the more we fall out of love with them. Another really good example with this is music. Like, I remember I would obsess over Spotify songs when it came out in the release radar. So I would listen to the same song over and over and over again because it just sounds so good, right? The melody is so nice. I really want to get it stuck in my head. And the first times you listen to it, you get all excited, right? And your hand gestures goes up and you start dancing around, you start vibing to the melodies. It brings you lots of energy, lots of motivation. And then when you listen to it like the fifth time, the level of happiness is still there, but then it starts decreasing, right? And then slowly, as you continue listening to the same song during day 10, day 15, day 20, you really start to see the slump, right? The slump in the energy, the slump in the happiness, or the slump in the dopamine that it gives you. And eventually you get to a point where you realize that you've backgrounded that music. That music is just part of your playlists of hundreds or thousands of songs that you have backgrounded over time. And what's actually happening here is a process called habituation. What this concept of habituation means is simply the more you do something consistently, the more likely you're going to make that activity a habit over time. Some of the most obvious examples are when I treated my bed as just a bed, right? Like, after camping a couple of nights later on, I wouldn't get that same joy that I did compared to the night when I came back from camping. And the same things happened with my Pokemon cards and my football cards on my shelf. After a period of time, I start to fall out of love with them. And again, the same thing with Spotify songs. You start to make them a habit. And you can see this in elsewhere in your life as well, like relationships, right? You start to have that excitement in the beginning, but then over time it starts wearing off if you don't maintain this relationship. Or if you're wearing like your favorite sports team jersey every single day, you start to realize that it's just a jersey over time and there's nothing really special about it. Or moving to a new city, new school, going to a new place, or discovering a favorite restaurant, or going to a theme park, right? There's really a lot of things that you can make into your habit. And the problem with falling into this is that it drives people to want more and more stuff because you think that the problem which makes you lose this joy is because you don't have enough of it. But then we don't realize that it's because we made this a habit. That's why we're actually losing joy. And then what ends up happening is that people start behaving irrationally, trying to get more and more, accumulating and hoarding all of these things. You can see on the news, right? People being so greedy with this, being so greedy with that, right? Being so selfish with caring about their own needs. And over time, the cycles just keeps going on and on when you accumulate more of these physical possessions, and then you get fed up with it and you accumulate more, and then the cycle goes on and on and on. And then you start blaming people. You start blaming people when you don't get the things that you want, or think that someone else is competing with you because they have the thing that you want. And what ends up happening in the long run is that you waste energy and you're not grounded. And then problems arise in your life. You create relationship problems, money problems, life problems. To really fix this problem, you need to start recognizing that this is an issue that's dragging you down first. And then change your approach with how you treat these activities that gives you joy. And this may sound ironic to some of you guys because we're all taught in our econ classes, right, to maximize utility, right? More practice makes perfect. So you should apply to the same principles to happiness, right? But that's where the problem comes from. Because the more we do something, the more likely we're going to background it. So what we need to do to fix this, or to prevent this from happening, is simply doing the opposite. Doing the opposite means spacing these activities, spacing these moments of pleasure, so then you experience it from time to time, rather than experience it every single day, during every single moment, or doing it too frequently. And what you'll see end up happening when you do that is, because you're only doing something maybe like once a month or once every 2 months, you automatically value this thing more because it's a rare experience. It's something that's out of the ordinary. It's something that's different from your mundane life. And it's the same reason, really, why you see people who haven't traveled in business class, right? They feel so excited to someone who have been in the corporate world and they've been traveling on business class every single day because they've done it so many times in their company, like they don't get that excitement anymore. And it's not that we're 100% not doing this right now, but we can make it more conscious. We can make it more intentional for us to space these out. Because right now, there are probably things which you don't automatically realize, which you've already spaced out. And when you go back to it, you're like, damn, this gives me lots of joy. For example, maybe you forgot about a particular song and then you put it on the side for a bit. And then after a couple of months, suddenly you come back to it and it feels like it gives you that rush of new dopamine, right? It gives you this sense of freshness, even though you've listened to it before. So the first way to start creating more pleasure in the present moment is really to space them out, right? Be more aware and recognize the different things that makes you feel joyful, and then intentionally plan them and space them out in different periods of time, so then you can savor them when you actually do that activity. Moving on to another strategy to amplify the moments of pleasure after you space them out. Very often, what you'll see is we take these moments of pleasure for granted. And what do I mean when I say we take for granted? I mean, a lot of the times during these moments of pleasure, we're not even fully present in the experience because we're thinking about something else in the future, or we have some kind of worry. Like, think about the last time you went to a theme park and you know that there's going to be a test coming up, or you know that there's going to be a project coming up, and then you get distracted and you get bothered down because of these things coming up in your mind. And as a result, what happens is that we plan to have this period for us to enjoy, but then when we actually go into the period, because we don't have a clear mind and we're not in the present moment, we actually don't get the enjoyment that we planned for. So what we need to do is to start surrendering to the moment, to start being more present. And a really good way to do that is just start feeling your 5 senses, right? Just start smelling the air. What do you smell, right? Do you smell like the roses around you? Start looking around you and observing, and start listening, right? Maybe you could hear the birds chirping. Start feeling things around you. Once you start paying attention to your surroundings, then you'll become way more appreciative with the things that you have. And it will really give you this deep sense of joy with the activity because you are there, right? You're literally in the present moment. And you've realized that you've came to this amazing place and you're just enjoying everything that the experience has to offer you. Another really cool way to amplify the moment if you're in a group activity is really sharing the moment with other people. So then tell others how much you enjoy the moment, and most likely what's going to happen is that they're also going to tell you that they enjoy the moment. And together you're going to build this joy, right? You're going to start sharing laughters. You're going to start having a more uplifting experience if you express your emotions to others. For example, one thing that is really small that I'll do every day is simply tell the server who helps me prepare my salad how much I actually appreciate her efforts and how good the food tastes, because genuinely the food is actually amazing, and I can see that it also makes her day. I can see that it makes her smile, and whenever she smiles, it also makes me feel warm and makes me smile as well. So once you express that joy to someone else, it will automatically reciprocate to you. What you'll start to realize is that it's really the small things, right? It's not really great things that gives you the deep joy, even though a lot of the times we think that we need that huge hit, right? We need to really do this grand thing. But it really is about paying attention to the small details and just being present, which will give you the joy that we just forgot about. Memory building is also another huge component. So taking photos or pausing in the moment and taking a selfie, or going to the gift shop and buying souvenirs, especially when you're in a theme park or like museum or something like that. Like, doing these things really require minimal effort, but then it can really easily brighten your experience and make it more memorable. You also want to try and find also some potential fun ways to do things, right? Like, a lot of the time, most of us take life way too seriously, and I'm guilty for that as well. Like whenever we work on some kind of project, we feel like we have to lock in. And obviously there's some hustle cultures and some startup cultures right now which is more flexible and is less serious compared to like 10 years or 5 years ago. But we still need to shake it off even more, right? Like ask myself the question, how can I make this feel more like play? Like with whatever I'm doing, even though if I might be typing out my essay, how can I make that more fun? Right? Really just generate some creative ideas. Maybe in between the essay you can start doing some K-pop dancing, or you can try something out with the essay, right? Maybe plug it into AI and have some fun with that. There's really no right way to create fun, but as long as you personally like it, then that's going to give you the joy in the moment. Now, I just want to talk about some exceptions to these pleasurable experiences. And what I realized is that some activities will just give me consistent joys no matter how many times I do them. Like even without manipulating them or spacing them out or using the above strategies that I said. And an example of that is during the morning, I've been swimming every single day for nearly half a year now. And that's been giving me a lot of joy every single morning. I feel pumped, I feel energetic, and I do it every single day as a habit. So I start reflecting that with the concepts that we talked about. And what I realize is that there's something called higher values. Right? I've mentioned that in my previous videos already. But once you do activities that are tapped into your higher values and that are authentic to you, then normally what you'll see is that joy and peace just constantly flows with you when you do that activity. It's like you're naturally born to do this thing because you get lots of joy and lots of happiness from it. And values are things that are authentic and your unique blueprint specifically made for you. So with these activities, when you identify them, what you really want to do is amplify them because you know that these are natural to you. You know that these gives you immense joy. So there's no reason with why you wouldn't do it frequently if your goal is to maximize fulfillment in your life. Another really interesting train of thought that I invite you to start thinking about as well is a lot of the times chasing whatever the activity is the factor that actually gives you the pleasure. So it's actually not that thing, but then it's the whole process and the whole journey which gives you the pleasure. And the joy comes after you build momentum, right? After you're able to accomplish this and you're able to accomplish that and level up with whatever game you're playing. So just to summarize everything that we've talked about with happiness, at the end of the day, it's actually not finding happiness. Happiness is already within us, but we just have to rediscover it. And how we can rediscover it is just by pausing in the moment, because a lot of the time we're rushed. And we're not even in the present moment. We're already thinking about the future, or we're dwelling in the past. But once we start to just observe the present more and slow down, right? Slow down in this world where everyone is going so quickly with technology and everything. Just take the moment to slow down and appreciate everything around you. Give gratitude. Then you can easily create happiness in your life and it wouldn't be a problem with you anymore. And as someone who's super impatient and who only learned to master the beauty of meditation. And meditation really just means observing your surroundings, being in the present moment, right? And stopping your brain from thinking about the future or thinking about the past. That's literally what meditation is, just focusing on one thing. As someone who used to be super impatient in the past and super rushed, I really started to see my life transform in a complete different way, which I've never expected it to go, where I start feeling lighter now and I start feeling more peaceful and feeling more joyful every single day. Like there really isn't anything bugging me a lot. And when you start living from this higher self of yours, you are the happiness, right? You are the source of your joy. You're not dependent on other things to bring you joy, but really you can create joy during this moment. So hopefully this have shined you some light on what you can do to create happiness in your life. And what you'll have noticed if you have listened carefully is that the deepest form of joy really isn't creating joy, really isn't doing something, but it's just being in the moment, being ourselves, being our natural, authentic selves. So I'm going to wrap up this video here. Hopefully you guys found some inspiration from this, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.